Welcome back, everyone, to the last session here on stage. And as I just introduced, we will have two speakers up on stage telling us all about, as they say, 5 ingredients for an enterprise cloud platform migration in the retail sector. We will shortly have here with us Friederike Albers, who is an Amazon Web Services AWS cloud engineer at Sogeti. And Friederike is responsible for the maintenance and extension of the Sligro Foundation. And Menno Stroes, AWS subject matter expert at Sogeti, who has worked alongside engineers to set up the initial platform for Sligro. Friederike and Menno will talk about the creation of an enterprise cloud platform and specifically about their experience setting this up at Sligro. Please welcome on stage Menno and Friederike.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. We are happy to host the very last session of this QX Day. And I hope that you will enjoy it. Thank you also for the organizers of the QX Day and giving us the platform. This is the clicker? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This session will be about the 5 ingredients that we focused on when we were actually developing the AWS cloud for Sligro and what was important to focus on. But before we dive into the topic, we quickly want to introduce ourselves. So let's see if this works. Yes, okay. I'll start with myself real quick. I'm Friederike Albers, as I was already introduced. I am actually working for Sligro at the moment. I live in Utrecht. Before that, I studied in Germany, and most of the time I actually lived in Germany as well. But for my master's, I decided to move to Groningen and study there. And as you can see, I decided to stay. So I'm happy working for Sogeti and for Sligro. So.
And then it's up to me.
Exactly.
Hi, everyone. Very glad to be here. Had been able to talk about cloud and sustainability for this day already. So I might switch back into that perhaps during the session. My name is Menno Stroes. I'm the AWS SME at Sogeti. Basically, I'm doing everything with AWS. And if you don't remember that, remember I'm driving the orange car. So thanks for that. And back to you, Friederike.
Yes, thank you. Okay, let's dive right into it. I think most of you probably know this logo, you know, the Sligro Food Group. It's a food retailer that actually provides more than 75,000 food items and non-food items to several restaurants, to consumers, and the list is quite long. We actually, when we were working with Sligro, we had to set up an AWS cloud platform. AWS stands for Amazon Web Services. It's a cloud provider. It's similar as Google Cloud or Azure. And when we were starting to work with them, we had to focus on a few factors that we will actually tell you now about. Sligro requested us to set up an AWS platform where they could run their applications. They could also possibly later migrate applications towards. So let's dive right into the factors. The first two actually work quite well together, or they're actually a bit entangled. The main focus that we had to look at was the speed of how quickly they wanted to deploy. So they asked us to not go the traditional way, but really deploy fast. So in the end, we were able to deploy the landing zone within 2 weeks. That's quite fast. We will tell you about how we did that in the main presentation, of course. The second accelerator and the request of Sligro was that we had to be able to scale out or scale in with environments. So in case an environment wasn't necessary anymore, to also reduce or remove it quickly. Well, we succeeded in increasing the speed of this. So we were really going fast. But they also requested, okay, please look at the costs, obviously, be a little bit efficient with that. So we used, for our main solution, we used standardized building blocks because we didn't have to reinvent the wheel necessarily. We could rely on something that was already pre-configured and in that way reduce the cost. Plus, Menno will dive into this, we were able to use a program from AWS itself, and in the start we were even able to have $100,000 of funding, which is a nice kickstart. When it comes to deploying a new platform, you necessarily have to look at the security aspects. something new is always vulnerable, and we needed to have the security from the start on. So we were automating the insights in this, and with that actually could target the workload of 2 security operation engineers that were working full time. Well, with having a rigid standard, you also need to find, okay, how can we find the balance between having something that is a great foundation but still enable a customer to work flexibly with their environment, right? So we had to focus on, okay, how can we enable them to have an environment that is quite complex but still secure at the same time? So, Menno, could you please take it on and talk about the solution?
Yeah, of course, thanks. Basically, that's what we did. And we achieved quite a lot, as you can see in the numbers. So usually we would stop here. But you see already quite a daunting picture it might be. We want to dive into this. We want to show you the technology behind it that made us able to actually achieve those great numbers. So when we move towards the cloud, we have to understand that our customers want to have various features, want to have various capabilities built into that platform. And that means that we have to do everything over and over again, but the customer is still slightly different from the other one. And what we did in order to make sure that we can deliver this really fast and at a very good price is actually by cutting up all of these various building blocks and then take it as a Lego box. Go and talk to the customer. See what kind of block does he want and which ones can we leave out. And that's what we try to do, build on the principles of the cloud, which is pay for what you use. If you don't use it, we're not going to put it there. You might use it in the future. By then, we'll put it there. And then you might think we're on a quality experience day. So how does this actually go together with testing and automating? Well, everything in our feature store is basically a building block that we have extensively tested across a variety of customers. So what are the advantages of this store? As you can see, we have all of these various small blocks, and these are fully automated. That means that we can alleviate it from the human error. Previously, we would take example code from another customer, take a look at it, copy, paste it, but what if we need to change something there? That means we have to go to every single customer in order to change that around, which is a very cumbersome task, but which is also very prone to errors. Then a second challenge that we had when creating this mechanism is basically to make sure that once it is in the cloud, it is also secure, it is also compliant, it is also thoroughly tested. So instead of letting DevOps engineers and cloud engineers invent this every single time in their own CI/CD pipelines, we created one pipeline for our building blocks, which does the security test, which does unit testing, which does all of these various tests in order to bring a safe building block. At the end, we want that our cloud engineers and our developers are gonna look towards what makes that customer unique. And that is 20, perhaps 30%, but a large part of it we can construct from the Lego blocks. So that's what we did. We created a toolbox, and we could simply select those items and focus fully on Sligo to see what are the blocks that you need that we haven't yet in this store, and how can we deliver that true value. So bear with us for the next 7 and 8 minutes. We're going to quickly go through a couple of the ingredients in order to make sure that you can utilize this store for yourself as well.
That's your turn.
Oh, that's mine as well?
Yes.
Oh, nice. So, first of all, Sligo stated they wanted to be agile. They wanted to scale up environments whenever required. So what we did over here is actually construct a foundation that must be able to expand whenever they request that. They might start really slow, take 1 or 2 applications, bring them to the cloud, whereas they have hundreds of applications that needed to get there. So we used that feature store and stated, hey, we're going to start very small. We're going to pick a couple of building blocks that we're going to push there. So the basics are there, teams are able to work on it, applications are able to land on it. But as soon as new requirements come up, only by then we will deploy the next building blocks. And that made it able for us to spin up new accounts and new environments that they need in a couple of days. Because we don't have to refactor everything or revise everything. We can basically look at the delta of things that we still need in order to make it work for that environment.
Yes, okay, let's move to the next point. Thank you very much. this is again what we touched upon on the quickness and the speediness, right? We were actually taking a step back and looking, okay, what was sometimes a bit hindering when we were working with current customers or also customers in the past. So we looked at the lessons learned from those workings together. And we saw that often the historical agreements or contracts that were made in the past were sometimes hindering. So working together with actually the insecurity of the future, we were able to tackle with our feature store exactly these points, right? We were selecting something that is pre-configured. They have the security of, okay, we agree upon this in every environment. You know what's happening. Plus, it's secure, right? You know what to expect. So, we use these standardized building blocks that are pre-configured. And as I already said earlier, the cloud foundation was settled within 2 weeks. So that is really fast.
And then I can go to one of the favorite topics of a lot of our customers and of ourselves as well, cost efficiency. So in their request, Sligo stated, hey guys, we want to do this, but we don't want to pay too much, like most of the customers. So as a company, we started to take a look on how can we do this and make sure that you have a very good structure in your projects, make sure that you do these things, but that wasn't really a disruptor. Of course, we have to work efficient. Of course, we have all these processes and people in place. So we took a look on how can we really do things differently. Well, the quick deployment of building blocks certainly helped, but we were also able to create building blocks from our architects and consultants that have been working elsewhere to deploy certain features that would help us to control these costs. And there was one more fun thing, because AWS also has a very nice program, which is called the Migration Acceleration Program. And for us, we investigated what this program could do for Sligo. And besides all of these things, such as smooth project transitioning, some very smart and intelligent building blocks to, at an early stage already detect where can I save those costs, we were also able to get over $100,000 in funding from AWS. And that made it easy for the customer to state, hey, I am willing to invest in this project. And it made it easier for us because we could focus on those things that we would otherwise have to trim or get out of the offering where we think, hey, this really helps the quality.
Thank you. Okay, so up to the last point. I think this picture says it all. When we configure something new, we want it to be secure from the very beginning. And with these standardized building blocks, we already said it a couple of times, we have this really nicely tested, configured, pre-configured blocks that you can work with. So with AWS, there's a certain framework. It's called the well-architected framework. And by following these best practices only from the well-architected framework, we already were quite compliant. We were hitting the CIS benchmark. So we made sure that in each of every one of these building blocks that we were doing exactly that. So in the well-architected framework, you also have the security pillar where you follow the best practices necessarily. So you can understand something like audit trailing, you know what's happening in the environment. If there's suspicious activity, you can quickly find it with the centralized security hub that we're using. So it's within AWS, it's a service that gives you the insight. And by actually automating these insights, we were really reducing the manual labor of people who needed to look at it. So that would be security operations engineers. But at the same time, also preventing the cloud environment from attacks from the outside, right? So this is actually one of the last points now.
One of the last, yes, indeed.
Exactly, the last.
So we have been focusing on several of these building blocks, and we're almost at the end, so please bear with us for just one more minute, because we also wanted to talk about flexibility going into the future. And this was a request from Sligo as well. We don't know how the future look like. Please tell us, how does it look like? I don't know. We can try and predict it. But one thing that we know is we need to be flexible. We need to anticipate on what our consultants and our SMEs think is coming. And one of those things is definitely the way that we interact in the digitalized world with our DevOps teams. That means that more and more legacy applications will phase out at the end and more new digitalized applications will be built. And the DevOps teams that we have right now, have different requests than traditional or other operating models that we have still, but also in the past. So we had to find a way that we could serve those application teams and those parts within the business units of the customers that simply wanted to give us a call. Can you change around this and this? But we are also working with developers and engineers that said, I don't want to give you a call. I don't want to use Ask Adam and get stuck in a whole process. I simply want to request an API. I want to call something, do something in the technology so I don't have to do it once, but I can automate it and it will be done forever. And that's basically where we started to take a look at our building blocks. So nowadays, within the feature store, we don't just deliver the things that we need, but we, from a platform perspective, also take a look on what other teams need. And that's where we started to assist DevOps teams and enable them by deploying those features that they can use. Again, with the same advantages. These tools that we give them, automatic scaling, turn off your CI/CD pipelines or turn off your servers and on whenever you want it, make sure that you have nice cost controls on those components that you need. All of these different subtle tools, we deliver them, we test them, we automate them, and we make sure that they work for the customer. So at the end, we were also able to help towards a one-click deployment for certain features, not only for applications that we have to manage ourselves, but also for DevOps teams that we want to service and give the same experience. Summing all up, because I think you're going to be pushed out the call really soon, summing all up, we had 5 ingredients that made it able to help our customer Sligo to quickly but secure migrate to the cloud. So having said that, I want to thank everyone for joining and hope to see you around at Sogeti. Thanks.
Thank you. Ingo, do you want to sit here?
Thank you so much, Friederike and Menno. We will continue with a bit of a discussion before we really sum up this session, but thanks again for your presentation. With us as well is Ingmar Oost, and Ingmar is IT Operations Service Delivery Manager Infrastructure at Sligo.
There we go.
Ingmar, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what you do, what you're responsible for.
Yes, of course. That's a lot of words to say that I'm the team lead of the IT infrastructure team. We manage the IT infrastructure, network, server management, data centers, and the telecom lines. And we do that with about 18 colleagues, and I assist them wherever I can. So we are there to assist the business the best we can in their IT needs, and well, to maintain our Sligo superiority, of course.
Good, thank you. First, I'd like to ask one more question to Menno and Friederike before I ask you for your experiences, of course, around this migration. But just for the two of you, you've been talking about this migration in the form of Lego blocks, standardized way of working. Was there anything you still needed to customize for Sligo in this process?
Yes, definitely. So every customer has a unique selling point, has a unique business model. And that's what we saw as well. So we can't just do a one-click deployment and create something for Sligo. We had to find out what they want to go to, what they want to build. But what we did see was that there are a lot of components that we can reuse. So we try and build up 70%, 80% of those building blocks according to what we think they want, and we have to fill up the remaining 20%. Not everything can be fully automated without first talking to a customer and get to know them.
And do you also learn from, let's say, this experience, and so that you're able to offer new Lego blocks to other customers? Do I need to see it like that?
Yeah, so building on that, I think that a lot of our customers, what we have taken from them are the lessons learned that we can apply to other customers. And the one thing I think that we learned at Sligo is, if you ever get a chance to go to their headquarters, they have an amazing barbecue stand. And I think that that is one of their unique selling points, at least for a lot of our engineers.
Okay. And you laugh because you recognize this.
Yes,
right?
it's quite busy with all our suppliers checking out and having conversations with us. conveniently all located at the barbecue stand.
So it's a social meeting.
Definitely, and it takes the edge of the meeting rooms, and it just opens up for a more open perspective of communicating.
Great, also a good advantage.
Definitely.
What was the advantage, again, of, so to say, like your experience as well, the advantage of introducing the cloud services this way?
Well, there's obviously the known denominators. We have our own environment, which is expensive, complex. It has been building up organically for the last decade or 4. So it was getting harder and harder to maintain. We were having difficulties also to keep up with non-business related components of IT, like security. It was placed over many different data centers, and it was just getting harder and harder and more complex. We live in a high-paced, high complexity environment. So we were just looking for a way out to diminish the maintenance of our IT environment, and then the cloud was obviously a easy solution, at least for us.
Question.
Yeah, and there are small talks today, so hopefully people are still using it. What has been the biggest added value of the quality testing approach?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
What has been the biggest added value of the quality and testing approach in this way?
Well, I would say that by testing it, you already make sure that it will work in the future, right? So we were using this as a foundation to first see, okay, how does it work in our test environment and an acceptance environment, and then move on to the production. So it's an easy, streamlined way of making sure everything works. You really have the control of versions and so on.
And we have the advantage that once it is in production, it is ready for use. There is no more tinkering. We can just get going. And that's, from a customer perspective, just what we're looking for.
Yeah, little trouble.
Thank you.
Another question, or we?
Yes, there is one more question.
Yeah, but then I want to press the button first, of course. Very well.
And the other question is, what do you see as a next step for quality improvement regarding to your ambitions for the cloud services?
Emissions or missions?
Ambitions.
Oh, ambitions, okay.
I think it's getting, for us at least, as a partner in platform cloud landing zones delivery, it's getting more and more important to thoroughly test those small building blocks that we create, not only for ourselves anymore, but especially for DevOps teams and for the customer. So from a quality perspective, we are getting more and more feedback on, this is really cool, you should include this. And we get that 100 times, but that's indeed the quality shift that we need to make in order to make sure that all those Lego blocks are being used and that we're not developing because we think they're easy, but because the customer or the developer thinks they're easy.
I got nothing to add. We see the Lego blocks, but only from a Sligo perspective. But we can tell that there's been a lot of work before us. So it is just easy to use for us. We don't feel like we're experimenting, but we're really standing on the shoulders of the customers that went before us.
That's a great compliment. Thank you, I think, to you. Yes, there you go. So what do you think is the most important aspect of managed cloud services?
Well, from the role that I have at the Sligo, the additional security that we get, as a package, saves me lots of hassle. We do get tempted every now and then for non-business perspectives. Maybe security can be a little less. And that's just setting yourself up for failure. Now it's all in the package. There's no hassle. It spins up, and we can program against it without worrying about secondary aspects.
And how do you use, or how will you in the future use the cloud to further innovate? Are there any?
Well, because it takes down the effort that we have to put into maintaining our own systems. Well, obviously those resources, time, but also personnel. Can go into innovating. Most of our businesses are entrepreneurs themselves, so they give us idea on what they want, and then we can immediately DevOps against it, rather than, do we have machines, do we have storage, is it secure, where is our data center, who has the key? So we just save a lot of time and hassle, and we can use it for our business purposes.
Well, I really like your example because today we've been talking a lot about quality engineering and testing and how it can sometimes delay processes, but actually this is again an example of how you can accelerate deployment in the end, right? And the use of it for further innovation.
From customer perspective, the fact that it gets taken away from our hands just means that we can focus more and more on our business rather than with secondary topics.
Had you expected this process to go
we
this fast?
were perhaps a little skeptical, but we got surprised with the speed and the way of moving forward real quickly. And from there on, it just builds trust on to expand.
Great, thank you. If there are any more questions, we have a couple of minutes left. So, Pukke and Jeroen, just let me know with this red button. I know you'd love to press it once more. Menno and Friederike, what's up next? What have you learned? What do you want to do next, either in this context or with your experience elsewhere?
Well, for me, it's quite insightful to see how powerful it is to have this foundation and that you can pick and choose what you think suits a customer best, right? So I think that was really an eye-opener for me personally, starting in this development team for Sligo that we provide. And I'm eager, of course, to learn further of what kind of tools are necessary and also provide the value. And I think it's really a really nice innovation that we have set in place there.
And your biggest lesson learned? Can you formulate that?
Well, I think infrastructure as code is for me really the thing that is so powerful. So you can easily deploy with a few lines, you can deploy new service, you can create new applications and extend an environment, right? So you can say, okay, I would like to add a new account to this and I would like to deploy here a few servers. That's quickly done with these building blocks. So I would like to extend my knowledge in that further, I would say.
Good.
Yeah.
For you, Menno.
Do we have time for the short or the long answer?
Just you can take a couple of minutes.
So I've been working in we call it in Dutch the horeca. So I had a lovely feeling with the retail sector and especially Sligo. But during my time there, I learned that taking care of your customer and making sure that they have an evening that they never forget became a part of an obsession almost, to make sure that we deliver a very good customer experience. And moving forward, we're seeing that our customers can be direct customer, but also the DevOps teams. And I think as a cloud foundation, we should make sure that we deliver those excellent services. Sometimes I say we do the boring work that developers, that customers don't want to worry about. We'll turn on the lights, we'll turn them off as well. But we deliver an excellent service so you can focus on what's really important. And moving forward towards, again, a next customer with an even bigger Lego box, I think that's going to be our main focus, to really let them focus on their core business, and we'll turn off the light whenever that's necessary.
Thanks. Well, it wasn't only a success, you also presented very well. It's nice to listen to that. Ingmar, do you have anything to add, or?
Not really, just the fact that Sogeti enables us to see IT environment as a utility rather than an environment that needs to be wrestled with. It just brings peace of mind and makes my life a lot easier.
Great. Thank you so much, all three of you, for your contribution this evening, and good luck with your cooperation in the future.